Who doesn't love a good coffee? So before we get into this episode, I want to tell you about the international sensation that is Final Press and how you can use the code AHB podcast to get 10% off. You all know I love a good coffee and I can be pretty particular with what I drink. Well, I've finally got my hands on a product that I absolutely love, and it is super simple but also so versatile to use. This means that you can tailor how you want to have your coffee when out in the bush. If you want to support the podcast and get an awesome bit of gear that I know you will love, then check it out. The link can be found in the show notes, socials, and on the website. Final Press, you'll love it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it. Okay, been excited to hear this one because I remember what it was like when I got my first deer, but it's nothing in comparison to what you did, Ash. So tonight I've got Ash Mueller on to talk about his first deer. I'm not going to spoil it too much here. So, mate, how are you? And I can't wait to hear this story.
Mate, thanks for having me on. It is quite the story, and I've heard quite a lot of people. They've given me a lot of crap for it, to be honest. They've you're tinny and all that stuff around a campfire, and you're never coming back, all that fun stuff. But no, mate, I'm really good. So by way of introduction for everyone, I'm Ash. I'm from Gippsland, Victoria, and I've been a hunter my whole life. Not with the bow though. The bow came late, very late. I was a rifle hunter growing up on the family properties, just pest control. General fox, rabbits, roos when we had licensing to do so years ago. And I sort of lost interest as I got older, finding a job and a partner and the way life goes. And I went to a small shoot, actually, with a friend invited me down at an archery club in Frankston down in Mornington Peninsula, Victoria. And I picked up my first bow there. I would have been in my early teens, and it was a bit of a oh, I like this. This is different. Never dived into the hunting side of it though. It was that all come later, and the deer was always a passion, always a strive, always a goal. And unfortunately, I didn't grow up with my father's not a hunter. My grandparents weren't hunters. It was just didn't run in the family. So I was sort of a lone soldier on that, and found my own way into the hunting path, mate. But the story is a good one. It's taken years of dedication and study, research, time, effort, loss of time with family. As you well know, the sacrifices we make to get out in the bush and chase these critters that we love pursuing. But so that's a brief introduction of who I am and where the journey started, mate. But yeah.
So when you're talking about picking up the bow, how long had you been shooting with the bow before you thought about actually getting out there to chase your quarry?
That's a really good question. As I said, it did come later in life. I'd shot the bow for a good, I'd say that time, 8 years before I even thought about shooting an animal. Where I lived at the time was pretty heavy on the city side of things. So I didn't have much land or much option or much access to go and do so. But I did find a small pocket of land where I could, and it all started on rabbits. I wasn't a very wealthy young bloke. I travelled a lot when I was younger. Work was sort of I'll work on the way and go and experience the world at a young age. And I bought my first bow. It was a eBay special, as they call, because I didn't know. I didn't have any forethought. Didn't research the bow. I didn't have anyone to guide me, I guess is the way to put it. Sort of a thing I found at a club years ago, and decided to take the bullet, take the train, and purchase my first bow, and really dive deep into it. And for every time that you hear it all the time, getting into archery for the first time or getting into bow hunting, it's buy American, buy US made, and I couldn't agree more. I had a lot of troubles with it, a lot of frustrations. I could never get the thing to tune. I always blame myself for bad shots at a target. I never took shots at any critter without knowing and confident within myself that I could, ethically take a shot when the hunting side of it came into my mind.
I'm just sitting here and going 8 years. That is some pretty good dedication there to really hone in on your craft of shooting. At what sort of distance were you hitting by the end of that sort of 8 year period? Were you pretty confident out to further distances? Because I find that's one for me at the moment. Haven't been shooting the bow long. Absolutely love it. But I'm only probably super confident to about 40 meters.
Yeah. No, so over those 8 years, mate, it was very sporadic. As I said, I was very in a city lifestyle. My backyard at the time, growing up through those years, I was limited to probably 25 yards max.
Okay.
My the family property was out in Horsham, so it was a good 4.5 hour drive and dedication. Yeah, there was definitely dedication. There was a lot of frustration, but dedication, 4.5 hour drive and return to go and shoot the bow at longer distances. I wasn't that dedicated. It was just later in life, mate. Once I've started to get a few kills down, a few rabbits down, a few foxes, and then I gained access to a long distant family member to a property down in Gippsland. Same story though; they only had foxes and rabbits on the property. That was when I really, really got the love and got the bug because I could shoot out to a further distance. And at that time, that was the decision I made after all those years was, no, this is what I love doing. I did fight with the idea of kicking, I don't like to say it, but kicking back and settling for a firearms license and do all that, which I do have, but it's just something about the bow, mate. And that little bit of access I got out in that property, which gave me that real urge and drive, because that's where a bow that's where it starts to take hold of you as an archer, in my opinion. Is 20 yards is good, but you can have an untuned bow and shoot quite comfortably at 20 yards and get away with a lot.
Yep.
And I was stuck in that rut for 8 years until I started seeing that further distance, and that's where the passion for the bow and the real dedication to learn. I volunteered at a local bow archery shop in Cranbourne. Rowi's Bow Hut, he's a legend. They're not there anymore, unfortunately, but I volunteered a lot of my time to help out in the store, and he taught me technician side of it. So he passed on his knowledge, and it just flowed from there. He's the one man I'll always thank for this journey. He's where it started. I'm an elite shooter, so I shoot Elite, the brand. That's thanks to him. He gifted me an Elite bow at the time, the current one for that year in 2017, and I used that bow for a very long time. But yeah, mate, so comfortably throughout those years, 25 yards was all I had.
Yep. I was shooting a couple of days ago, and I've made a couple of mistakes, and I blame my mates. So I can shoot because we've got a little bit of land here, nothing major, like not firearm worthy, but I can shoot the bow safely here, and I sort of shoot up against the garage, and I've made a couple of errors here because me being me, trying to get people into the sport, whether it be hunting with a bow or hunting with a rifle, doesn't sort of bother me too much, but trying to get them involved. So we've had a couple of goes, and I've had people just jump out and use my bow, and yeah, wow, I've gone through that many arrows because they've missed the target completely at 10 meters. And being extra safety cautious, I have it, the target butted up against the garage, which is a brick garage. So they hit that and it's game over, obviously.
Yep.
But I'd rather that than, an arrow take off somewhere where it shouldn't. So I've had a few little mishaps, and even to the point where my brother, I will embarrass him on here, he came over and we were shooting out, and he got the hang of it pretty quick, and he wanted to just test it out, and I'm glad to say that he has his own setup now and got right into it, which is good. But we're shooting mine and we got out to sort of 10, 15 and it was going pretty good. So I was like, all right, let's push you back to 20. And I get blamed for this. I don't know how. Probably 5 meters to the left of the target, I had a couple of $100 solar panel that I was meant to put on top of the ute. Nice, like slimline, flexible one, so I could just bolt it down to the top of my Rhino rack there and be able to run it as normal. And of course, I don't know how the hell it happened, but somehow the arrow went 5 meters left, or probably a bit more actually, left of the target, straight through the solar panel. And there's game over for that solar panel. So,
no.
Yeah, I was just sitting there going, are you kidding? There goes, I think it was about $400 worth. And I was just like, and then it was my fault for having it anywhere near the target, it wasn't near the target. The way he painted it out was like I had it behind the target so you could just miss, but no, not at all. So, yes, I copped that from the wife, but understandably. And then the next part is anyone shooting, I'm clearing everything, and they're no longer shooting from 10. But either way, I just bought some new arrows.
Excellent. Where'd you go?
Look, they're just some, to be honest, I just grabbed them. That shows how much of a probably novice I am with the bow. I just grabbed them from the local, and I couldn't even tell you what they are. They were just there. I was like, you know what? I've literally down to none. I think there's one left, but my brother's got that at the moment. So I went, you know what? I'm just going to grab a couple so I can just keep shooting. And they're horrible. I can't say it any other way. Yeah, they're horrible. They're only like $9 each, so they're not great, I don't think. Shooting wise, they are all over the place, and I'm pretty confident it's not me because with my other arrows, I'm pretty dialed in.
No, it could be a lot of things. Like depends on what poundage you shoot. The spine rating on those arrows, they sound like they might be too weak of a spine, and that'll cause sporadic flying for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they're 320s, which is like what I was shooting. I know I went in and went that way because they were the cheapies, but they obviously had the different versions. So I'm not sure. I really think that maybe it's the fletching that it's very different to the ones that I had. I feel like it's moving it too much or I don't know. I'm not, look, again, as I said, I'm not 100%, but they were just cheapies just so I can keep shooting because I haven't had the chance, but I'm going to grab some of the exact same ones that I was running, the Carbon Express ones, and run them, and they were perfect. So I'm going to just rinse and repeat because it was going really well. And not that it's not now, but like I'll shoot to perfect, and then the third will be a flyer.
Yeah, gotcha.
So now that's the other thing though, is there's always one flyer. So I don't know if it's just one arrow. I probably need to spend a bit more time and concentrate that on a bit more. I might actually just put something on it to mark it up and see if it's the same arrow that just happens to be the flyer, because the two there's two always pretty much on top of each other, and then this third one's usually a good few inches out, and that's only at about 20 meters. So
yeah, gotcha, mate. When you shoot next, just on that arrow, the flyer, when you grab it and pull it out of the target, rotate the nock 60 or 90 degrees, shoot it again. Then rotate it again, shoot it again.
Yep.
And I guarantee you'll pull that and stack that on top of the other ones.
Okay. There you go. All right. I'll give that a test out.
Give that a crack. See how you go.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's so much fun, isn't it? Like, I'm by no means an expert, and I probably never will be, but it's just so much fun. Just if I get 10 minutes, I just love jumping out the back and just letting a couple arrows go. It's I love it.
Oh, mate, yeah. There's definitely something. There's definitely something to it. There really is.
So, all right, enough about me. I'll shut up.
Right, mate.
Let's get into your story and get this deer, because it's impressive,
mate. I sort of don't know where to start, but I guess I have to go back a little bit, because after meeting Rowie and spending my time in his shop and volunteering my time to understand and learn the technical side of the bow, and that's when it all took off. Unfortunately, when he shut down, though, my passion and drive to continue archery it dwindled very quickly in the years to come after that. I didn't have anyone to share the passion with. The nearest family members that I used to go and out to the property and cull ferals on the property was a good 5-hour drive. And every time I went out there with the bow, they'd sort of just look and just sort of, yeah, nah, mate, put that thing away and throw me a 223 or something. But so that poor bow at the time was an Elite Impulse 34. Spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It lived under my bed for 5 years, 6 years. I might pull it out here and there and keep my form in check, and then in the end, mate, not 6 months before this deer came along, I actually sold the bow and gave it up. I went, nah, I'm done. I don't have the time. I don't have between work, family. I don't know anyone, and I wasn't willing to go out on my own because I had nothing, mate. I've never been up high country. I've never, as in hunting. I grew up in the bush fishing and stuff with my family growing up, but I just wasn't at that stage of confidence within myself to get out and chase it and learn it on my own. And I used to kick myself about that all the time. It was always a thought, always a passion, always a want. But yeah, I gave it up, sold the bow, and I actually, then after that, mate, real quickly, I run a YouTube channel over the years, and that's had quite a good following, and it was really successful. And I met someone through that who was a bow hunter. He's now a good friend of mine. At the time, he just shot me a message asking me for some help in regards to the content I was putting out, and one thing led to another, and yep, he's a bow hunter, and he sparked my passion. We caught up, and I told him my story like I'm telling you guys now and everyone listening, and told him that I sold the bow, and he had a PSE Stinger Max sitting in his cupboard that was just his spare bow, his backup bow, in case he used to take two out, or always takes two out with him in case something goes awry with his main bow. And he lent it to me for 2 months. And mate, that was it. Once I've met someone now who loves hunting with a bow. So we just clicked, and by him lending me that bow and getting back outside and pulling the target out of the shed and blowing the dust off it, it all sort of, the passion grew and come back. A month with that bow, that's where my journey really starts when it comes to bow hunting. For years, I've always listened to podcasts and watched and listened to all the big names within archery or the hunting space, and I can't thank that more than enough, to be honest. Some of your guests listening to your podcast, Matty, over the last couple of months, and there's a couple of other podcasts out there. I won't name them. I'm on yours, but
that doesn't bother me, mate. Go for it.
For anyone chasing or delving into the thrill of bow hunting, I can't recommend Matty from Becoming a Bow Hunter more than enough. Just like yourself, he explains his story, learning the sport, learning the passion. The Doomstis brothers, to name a few, Grant Rand and Toby Hines and all that sort of stuff, mate. These guys are just whizzes, and they share the knowledge. And so I'd always studied through social media, through content, through, media platforms like YouTube and stuff was all I had, because I didn't have that. I didn't have people like yourself or family that grew up with it. We don't have hunters in the family. So there's only one way I could really learn it before I built the confidence to get out there on my own. And this bloke that I met and lent me his bow, from there he took me out, and we went 3 days up in the Victorian high country. This was probably 4 weeks before the hunt, where it all came together. He took me up, and we just spent 2 nights up there. I just followed him, watched him. We saw a few sambar. Didn't get a shot opportunity, but just the thrill of being out there and watching someone who was willing to share his knowledge in the physical, not because everything I've learned and known has always been via content. And that was it. 2 days later, I drove to Urban Archery in Somerton, Victoria, looked up the newest and greatest and the best thing that I wanted. And after all my years of research and months and time and effort, chose a bow, bought it, got all the accessories, spent the following 4 weeks until our hunting trip was planned and all this came together, getting it dialed, throwing it in a press. I could go on forever about tuning and timing a bow, but got all that done. mate, I didn't even have time to slap on a sight tape. I got the 20, 30, 40 yard pin sighted, and I was like, yep, that's good enough. They're hitting where I want them. And just that eager and the passion to get out there and finally chase everything that I've been over that long period of time. It's always been a thing I wanted to do, but I have big thanks. He's definitely a part of this story, and I'll thank him for life for sparking the passion back up. Yeah, and that was it, mate. I got the bow sighted, got it all sorted. Luckily, he works for me now, so I was able to get him time off and myself time off, and organise this magical weekend that it was, an unforgettable weekend, and mate, off we went.
Before we get into the other hunt, how addictive is it when you see deer for the first time?
Oh, mate, I was speechless. I'll never forget it. It was funny. As I said, we only did 2 days. I didn't carry a firearm or a bow with me. I just ghosted him to try and suck up and soak up every movement, every bit of everything I could to assist me and better my knowledge in the hunting thing. And I don't know. I think it's just because I'm eager, and I might cop a bit of flack for this, but I'm up early at the crack of dawn, and as soon as I leave camp, mate, I'm out all day. I don't come back and after the 11 o'clock period and rest and have a yarn by the fire or whatever it may be. I'm out there. If I'm out, I'll see you at 8 o'clock at night. I'm out and I'm done. And the third day into this first little weekend, we went away. He went back to camp, and I went, I'm just gonna stroll and have a look and try and find some, game trails and some wallows maybe, or some scrapes, and just try and learn on my own, do my own thing a little bit. And on my way back, two sambar deer popped out. First it was a hind. She walked out. She had a young'un with her, and not 30 seconds later, big stag walked out, and mate, my jaw hit the floor because I'd never seen it. It was just like these things are amazing. I can understand what this whole buck fever they talk about, especially with a bow. I can understand this now. And to be honest, it was conflicting. I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to remember my shot process and all that in this split second moment is what it felt like. But mate, that feeling, it's it's definitely a shock. Definitely a shock. But I think that's what grows your addiction. Your want to learn more about the animal and the more appreciation you have for them. So yeah.
Mine is just ingrained in my head. Like even just hearing you talk about yours, it just sends me straight back, and I can just see the three of them there in that with the background. Everything's there. It's just that visualization of it is just always there. If I think about that, or when I hear somebody else's story, it just takes me straight back. And it's so cool to be able to have that. And that was a while back now. That's probably a good 5 years or so for me.
Yeah,
and it's just there. And I didn't even get one. Didn't even get to have a shot. It was, not a safe backdrop and whatnot. But seeing them and hearing them and make a noise at me, and it was so cool. It's just so addictive. As soon as that happens, like I'd seen deer driving, on the road and things like that. It's totally different to when you're out there in the bush looking for them.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's surreal.
So you're out there for the second time on public land, I believe.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, so we both areas. The first time, as I said, he just took me up to introduce me to the grind, what to look for, what to do, just a bit advice. And that was just a weekend away. Both of us didn't have bows or firearms in hand or anything. It was just a gesture from him to get me out there and what to look for. We were in good deer country. Obviously, we saw those couple and heard them and got to see the signs, the rubs, the scrapes, the wallows. Got to see it all. And that was trip 1, public land, and then trip 2 came not too long after. As that first trip just grew, and mate, I couldn't even think. I couldn't concentrate at work. It was just, I need to get out there and I need to do this. And yeah, mate, the rest is history. I organised it, got it happening. The new bows in stock, the new bows in hands, mate. It was that much of a push and a rush, and just the passion was that strong because realistically, it was years of wanting this moment to happen. I didn't even have a quiver, mate. I carried the arrows in my backpack, just loose, rattling around. I wasn't prepared.
Just that eager.
Oh, mate, just eager. And we organised it. It was pre-rut, so it was March the 18th. We arrived at camp this year and hoping to hear some croaking. So the area we went was mainly fallow deer. There were the odd sambar cruising around. And again, big hats and thanks off to this family, this bloke that took me out there to experience that. It is public land, but they took me to a spot that their family's been going to for generations. And I felt very privileged that they invited me out there because I know that's not something you do. So just that within itself was unreal. Him, his uncle and his brother all come up. His uncle does and his brother do guided hunts in Victoria, both rifle and the bow. So they knew the area well. So I got a really good step up. I guess I had a leg up compared to just picking a spot on the map or looking on the hunting maps Victoria publish and on their application and stuff like that, and just picked a spot and went for best luck. But no, so I definitely had a leg up. We got up there, mate, and the spot is just middle high country, absolutely gorgeous. It wasn't thick, it wasn't overrun. Like a lot of Victorian high country is very thick, very dense, very hard hunting with a rifle, let alone a bow. And this area was it's the perfect spot for stalking. You can take just everything about it, mate, was perfect. And through my research and study and the help from them, as soon as we got there, it was just that itch that like he had to calm me down. I was setting up camp, and so we left home. So I'm down in Phillip Island, mate. So I'm in a small town called Coronella, and up high country. It's a 4.5 hour drive to camp. We left here at 5 a.m, got up there, set up camp, and just the excitement and the urgency just to don't care about the swag. I'll worry about it later, mate. We need to get out. Let's go. And having that experience of him there to say, just relax, mate. We've got some walking to do first. You've got to learn the area. We've got to glass it off a bit. I'll show you some spots. And it's such a blur, but it's so vivid. If you can understand, I'm excited to tell the story. Mate, day one, just driving up to camp and setting up was phenomenal in itself.
It's that anticipation, isn't it, just to get back out there?
Yeah.
It's hard to describe. Like, there's not too many things that I lay in bed and can't fall asleep for. Whenever I'm going away, geez, I struggle to sleep.
That is a good way to put it.
And even when I'm there, I struggle. It's in my mind, just that anticipation, the excitement of what is it going to bring. It's like a blessing and a curse, because I sit there and go, I want a good night's sleep for the long drive, but I never get it. It's sitting there just like, I wonder if this is going to happen. I wonder what I'm going to see. Like, it's just
spot on.
Yeah, all these things run through your mind, just that excitement and wanting to get out there and sort of wanting just to get there ASAP and get amongst it. That's how I sort of always feel. And it's something I think is awesome, but I've always sort of said if when that diminishes is probably the time to give it away. If you're not getting excited to go, that's, for me anyway, that's how I know I really love something or really am just enthralled in it, is that not being able to sleep of a night, ready to go, just hurry up. Hurry up, son. Let's go.
Let's go. No, 100%. The best way I've tried to explain it, and not that I'm an experienced hunter by any means, mate. This is back in March. I've been on 2 trips since then, and so I'm very new to it. The best way I try to explain that, because my partner she wanted to know every little detail, and she struggled to understand for a while the passion. And the easiest way I can explain that feeling is it's like being a kid again at Christmas Eve. Yep. That excitement that you felt then is this exact same excitement I get before a hunting trip. As you said, the night before you leave to get in the car and go, or even when I'm there, you relay the day, you kick yourself for errors that you know you've made, and then you try and you're fighting yourself trying to say, no, at the time that was good. The win, I had to because of the win, or whatever it may be. And, mate, you're dead right when it comes to if that excitement was ever gone, it's definitely time to hang up the bow or whatever it may be. But that's definitely the feeling. That's definitely the feeling for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree there. So we got out there first day, out and about, glassing.
Yeah,
well.
So we got there, we set up camp. As I said earlier, I was eager, mate, and poor Anthony, he just said, all right, you know what? Stuff brekkie, let's go. And so we went out, mate, and, I'd purchased, because it was all such a rush and the thrill, I purchased things very sporadic, very quickly. No research, just get in, get it done. So I bought the cheapest pair of Vortex 10x42s you can find and got a cheap rangefinder just to give me the basics of what I need. Because me as a person, I'm very, very, I'm a huge advocate for you need to be right. You need to be confident in your equipment. You need to know that before you even think about taking a shot, and especially with a bow, and I'm a big believer in that. A bow is definitely ethical, but it's on you. A majority of it is on you. Errors, in my mind, with a bow is not good enough. The night before we left, I know I'm doubling back here again, but my 40 pin wasn't quite sighted, and I told my partner, I said, I'm not going tomorrow if I can't group this 40 yard. If I can't get this pin sighted in at 40 yards, if I can't group within a 5-inch circle, I am not hunting this weekend within myself. And that was just a drive, and I hadn't never even attempted to shoot at an animal that large, So got there, set up, went to go out, threw the target out, took a few shots first, and thankfully all the hard work over the 4 weeks, probably not hard work to some, but got it nailed, got it dialed. Every pin was hitting. And he said, grab your gear, grab your binos, grab your rangefinder, let's go, we're going. And mate, we ducked out of camp. It would have been, after setting up, it would have been it was a bit late in the morning, but it was probably 20 past 8 from memory that we took off, and just everything. As soon as we left camp, here's me, new, novice, young, just strolling at normal pace, talking like we are now, going, oh, what do we do? What do we look for? Where would we go? All that, all that new stuff, excitement. And he's just looking at me going, mate, just shut up. Just calm down, relax, slow your steps up. And I'll never forget, we were coming down this ridge just out of camp. And at the bottom, there was a little dam to the right. And to the left, there was a deep valley off this trail, off this road we're on. And he goes, just go have a look at the dam to the right. Just walk around it. And he let me walk around it. And I saw my first deer track, my footprint. And that was it. That was enough. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I was that excited just seeing that and going, oh, they're in the area. Because I don't know about others, but you always have that little bit of doubt in your back of your mind. Oh, God, I hope I see something. God, I hope I see sign. Or you just want it to be a full experience. And we hadn't even walked 100 meters down this trail onto this dam, and bang, there's footprints everywhere. And he saw the excitement. I lit up. They're here. It's happening. So he walked over and he tried to talk me through the footprints at the age. There's a little bit of water in the bottom of some. He's like, so they're fresh. It didn't rain last night, so that's just the water coming up through the soil. So they were this morning, and he's just talking me through it, and excitement took off, mate, and we continued up. So we're at the bottom here, so now we're walking up, and we got to those upsy daisies in the road. They grade out there for the water to run off, and climb up over the top of that, and straight over the top is another sort of like a small feeder gully. It sort of just rolls down a little bit. And here's me just strolling up, clobber-footed, too loud, and he grabs me by the backpack and he just holds me. And he goes, no. And he was just teaching me everything. Glass as you approach over the hills. You got to remember, mate, you have a bow in hand now. 80 yards is 80 yards, mate. It's not going to happen. We need to get close. You need to be all over it. So he taught me to glass as you slowly approach and rise. And, mate, as soon as I did that, I'll never forget this moment. I put the glass up, and 120 yards down the track on the right-hand side, there was this massive, and he's telling me it's roughly a 28 to a 30-inch stag just standing on the offside of this pine ridge that we're on. He's just standing out there, and I couldn't believe my eyes. This was morning 1, 20 minutes in, and I'm staring at this 30-inch Samba through me binos. Just he knew we were there. He was all over it, and that's it. The shake started happening already, and I just looked at him and went, "B, I'm not going to say it here, but you're joking. Like this isn't real. This ain't happening." And he goes, "Mate, we got this. Just keep going." So we pushed on, kept going, and he was explaining. So we walked around where we were. There's like it's like a big square, this dirt road track that we're on, and it cuts off through, and you double back. So you do a big loop to get back to camp, and it's about, I worked out, it was about 17.6, roughly 17, 18 kilometres to do the whole, just to walk the road, that is. And off every major corner of this trail or road we're on, there was a gully feeding off each side. And because it was being my first time, mate, I didn't have a GPS. I didn't have, it's new to me. I didn't have the equipment to venture off and travel deep into these gullies. And so day one was purely just, he was showing me the area. He showed me a couple of gullies that are good, that are hot spots. Thankfully, during that morning walk, after we saw that stag, we continued around the corner and down in this one gully, which we now call Ash's Gully, because that's where I got him in the end. But we heard a fellow croaking. He sounded like a long way away, but I got to hear a croak on the morning one as well. So that was an experience I'll never forget. And every hunter needs to hear it, needs to feel it, because my God, it's incredible. And we continued on after hearing that, and I kicked. So because I'm new to the area, I wasn't quite sure. I kicked a few places off the track. I marked with my boot just for reference points for if I venture off on my own for the 4 days ahead. And we continued on. We went back to camp for lunch and a rest and a relax. Not that I wanted to. That took every effort of me to go back to camp, but he insisted that no, after 11:30, we're done. We go and rest now, get some sleep, get some kip for the afternoon walk. And so I reluctantly agreed, and we went back to camp, and just that's it. I couldn't stop talking about what we'd seen and the excitement and the growth and and typical new bloke. I remembered that exact spot that stag was standing. I remembered that exact croak, what gully that was in, and of course, that was my first plan of attack. Was I'm going to those spots and this afternoon, and I'm going to sit off and wait. Which turns out in the afternoon was completely wrong. They're not as patented as I thought or predicted they would be. So get back to camp. Antsy, have a bite to eat. Anthony had a bit of a kip and a bit of a rest, and I couldn't sit still, mate. So I just slung arrows and being confident, gaining confidence with myself that I'm on. If no matter what happens, I'm confident I can take a shot. Following on, the afternoon came around and come around quick. I was shocked how fast the urge of the keenness to get out. I couldn't believe I was sort of sitting there resting, putting on a nice hot cup of Dog and Gun coffee and getting ready to chill out. And he's like, "Nah, it's time to go. Let's go." I was like, "Oh, yep, gear on, let's rock." And as I said, mate, I didn't have a quiver, so my poor arrows. So I shoot. I'm a pro staff shooter for Crafted Archery, and I rock his arrows, and I shoot mechanical broadheads. I'm a big advocate for mechanicals. Grim Reaper, my weapon of choice. But the biggest thing I learned that afternoon was putting them all together side by side in a backpack while you're walking just makes a ton of noise. So I literally, mate, I walked back down that first gully where that dam is off to the right for the afternoon walk or stalk, and I had to double back, mate. And I pulled out the old drawers in the back of the Navara and found some felt tape. So I put felt tape around all my arrows just to keep them quiet, and just the desperation to do what I could with what I had. And mate, the afternoon hunt begins, and we just do the same. Anthony just said, "Mate, we'll walk the same track, walk the same trail, see what we can see, have a look, get an idea, get an understanding." He said, "But this afternoon, we'll sit up on the opposite corner of where we're camped. There's it's hard to explain, but it's like a big bench on top of this cliff face that sort of rolls off into the distant gully." And we just sat up there and glassed for a little bit and saw a fair few hinds running across the road, a little trail that we're on, and a little 4-wheel drive track. And he was just trying to teach me about glassing and understanding the light patterns. And what to look for, and all small movements, and the ear flutters, the tail, or just trying to give me the most he could. It got on to, we didn't see much after that. Sort of we made the decision to head back to camp, and it was a successful day with the sightings we saw. We saw plenty of deer, but we didn't get a chance to get down into the gullies, and I didn't get to see any or learn any scrapes or game trails and try and find like a pinch point, as I said in my story that I published on Wild Deer magazine and stuff. It's I didn't get to experience any of that. That was all something that I'd learned through your podcast, through becoming a bow hunter podcast, Meat Eater, the list goes on. I'd learned all that, and that's what I was really gunning to look for. But fortunately, mate, and it doesn't happen often, and I know I'm tinny, I was lucky. I shouldn't say tinny, but I was lucky. So on our walk back, it was just before last light, we're heading back, bows in the slings on our backs, just walking, talking like we are now. We popped around this slight bend in the trail heading back to camp, and Anthony just he hit me. I was like, mate, what are you? Looked at him like, you right, mate? What's going on? What have I done? And he just looked at me and said, shh, look forward. And we saw the arse end of a fallow hind, and what we thought at the time was a hind. And it was probably, we tried to range the nearest tree that was closest to it, and it was about 67 yards away. And it hadn't heard us coming, had no idea we were there. The wind was in our face. And he just said, mate, you need to gear up, and welcome to your first stalk. Get onto it. And he just let me go. And, mate, I tried everything. We were on a dirt road. It was rocky, so I was loud. It was the cornflakes under feet. I tried to push myself into the tree line on the edge of the road and just sneak around. And I managed to. It turned out to be a young buck. He had no idea I was there. He kept going. I popped my head around this tree. I got to this corner point, popped my head out, ranged him, and he was at 36. Got down to 36 yards. So in excitement, rush, shakes, all happening. Clipped me a release aid on. Went to draw back, drew back, and just like that first sambar, I saw the mum and the young'un and that stag, and the couple of weeks before, I was at full draw, mate, pins on, but I didn't do anything. I was just frozen, just looking at it and just going, wow, I don't understand what's happening. And he ran off. I froze. And but I got to draw back an animal for the first time, and that was pretty awesome for day one. So for all you guys out there, if that happens, apparently that's normal. It can be very normal. So, and I kicked myself. We got back to camp, and I was upset. I was angry. I couldn't understand. He was broadside, but quartering away, and just it was all go. But I don't know, didn't have it in me. I didn't pull through the shot. So that was experience one, mate. That was day one. We got back to camp and discussed it, and Anthony was trying to say, don't kick yourself. Like, the fact that you drew back on a deer with a bow for the first time on day one is, mate, you got to be just stoked with that. It's okay. We've got 4 days to go. Don't stress. Well done. And the beer started flowing, and the chats and the fire got hotter, and that was it. It was just the eagerness for day two.
I've got to say, day one, you've done pretty bloody good, because I know I still haven't drawn back on a deer. It's not something that I think, especially people starting out in bow hunting, I always put it down to just, I have so much respect for bow hunters in the sense that you got to get so close, and that's just, it's a different thing. It's so much harder. Like, even when they're pegging you from 100 meters, like, you've got no hope as a bow hunter at that distance.
No, that's right. And that's that first sambar stag we saw. He spotted us at 120 plus, and I was just like, "Oh, this is gonna be
a long journey."
This is a journey, mate. Yeah, 100%.
Which, it's funny because doing that in the morning and then being able to draw back on something at, I think what you said, 37 yards.
Yep,
that's bloody good. What a good way to start, and it's impressive to be able to get into that position in the first place. So I get why you were kicking yourself, but I also think, geez, you got to take those wins, and anyone out there, take the wins. Like, that's a massive win.
Yeah, big time. And it took me a while to come to that realization later that night. But and I every time I get asked and talked to about this, it was we were just in the right place at the right time with the right noise. When I look back at it now, it's because ever since, mate, that's never happened. And I don't know how that came to be. Yeah, he was at 67. I did manage to push myself to 37. So I was impressed with that. And that's what my mate at the time was pushing me, like, mate, you have no idea. Just that in itself, it takes people years sometimes to just even experience that. So
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, keep doing. And yeah, so no, you're right. It all hit after a few beers and a few exhales of breath by the campfire. That's for sure. Yeah, mate, it was just a prep for day 2. And like always around a campfire, I can't help myself. I don't mind a drink by a fire and a chat. And before I knew it was 1 a.m. and crawled into bed and got in the swag and I just laid there for hours just staring out and going, I couldn't keep the nerves. I couldn't keep the what's going to happen tomorrow? What if I do this? Where do I go? What do I do? It was all happening. And then before I knew it, the alarm was going off. 5:30, you're up. And so day 2 come about, mate. Got up, feeling pretty average, put the kettle on, got the coffee happening, sitting there just frantically planning my day and trying to find the courage to go down in some of the gullies. As I said earlier, that's what stopped me for those years going out and doing it on my own, because I wasn't confident within myself of going out and doing that. But this time was different. Having a friend there, his uncle and his brother who know the area well, they weren't in our camp with us, but they were in a camp not far from us, so they were in the area. So I felt pretty confident, if I needed help or got lost or whatever, that I'd be all right. Unfortunately, though, so me and Anthony had a bit of a disagreement in the morning. It's the best way to put it. I had the confidence. I got up, coffee was in, food in the stomach, and it's go time. The sun was just starting to perch over the hills in the background, and just start to see enough light to be able to walk without running into anything. And he was still asleep, and I'm kicking his swag, and I'm kicking it. Mate, get up, it's go time. And he's like, "Oh, you're too keen, mate. Don't stress. We've got a little bit yet." And looking back now, I have a good giggle about that. And he just said, "You're just too keen." But I don't look at it that way now. In hindsight, I think that's what drove me, and that's what got me to this buck. And he was like, "Oh, mate, we'll just." He got up eventually, and he goes, "We'll walk the trail again. We'll walk the track, and we'll learn some more." And I went, "Nah, nah, not doing that. I did that yesterday. I'm going. I'm doing this on my own today." And he asked what gully I was going to go down and what time we should meet back at camp. And mate, I was that excited, that keen. I forgot to put my boots on. I was walking down the bottom track, ready to go on my own. And I looked down, mate, and I stood on this stick and went, "Oh, that hurt." Looked down, I forgot my boots. I was that keen. So I went back to put my boots on, and he goes, you're going on your own? You're doing this?" I went, "Yeah." I said, "I'll see you. If you don't hear from me or see me by 8 o'clock tonight." And he goes, "No way. You're not doing this all day." I went, "Yep, I'm doing it, mate. I'm doing it." And thank God I did. Anyway, took off, did the first half trail down the same little gully off to our left-hand side, past that dam, taking every bit of information that I learnt from Anthony the day before and a couple of weeks prior, glassing over the ridges, sneaking slowly around corners when you're open to a new face. And I did all that, and I got down to that spot I was mentioning before. So it's probably about 8 kilometres from camp, good up and down. There is a private property off to the left. It's all fenced off. There's a heap of goats in that paddock, and that was just really cool. I got there, sat there, had a bit of a rest, got the jet ball out, had a coffee, and just watched them for a bit and listened. And that was really cool to experience. Because in Victoria, we're not too blessed with goat, and that's one adventure I'd love to go and chase one day up New South or further up. But had a rest there, mate, and then it's a right-hand turn, but it sweeps down into another gully system, and that's what I was saying earlier, turned into what we now call Ash's Gully. So it's a very, very flat top gully. There's a sort of a creek that runs down the middle of the valley as you're at the top and start to walk down. So there's a nice water. There's water. It's very open, a lot of gum tree, there was a lot of leaf litter on the floor, but I decided that's the gully I'm going down and I'm going to do it. And I looked at the clock and it was about 10 to 8 in the morning and I thought, bugger it, I'm going down it. How hard can it be? I've been fishing up in Lake Hilton and Mansfield area, the high country all my life. I'm pretty confident I'll know how to get out of here. So I made the call right then and there. I'm doing it. And that was the gully that we heard the croaking the day before and walked down there and I decided to use the edge of this small creek or water system that was running down to soften and dampen the noise of my footsteps below me. And mate, I reckon I walked down probably 150, 200 meters down into this gully system, and it was still there was a lot of benches throughout it. It wasn't a very steep decline. The gradient wasn't too harsh. It was pretty easy going gully to walk down. The views were quite open. I got down about 150, 200 meters, and then it sort of forked off. So there was two smaller gullies that branched off from the center of the main gully that I started to branch down. And I was stuck on decisions of which part of the fork, which way of the fork do I go?
Don't you hate that? When you're sitting there going, and then you start to second guess and you take a few steps and go, should I go on the other one?
No, 100%, mate. And that's exactly the argument I was having within myself. And I thought, you know what? It's by the time I got down there, because I was moving very slow, I started down the gully at 10 to 8. By the time I got that 200 meters, it was probably 8:30. And I thought, I've got plenty of morning left. Bugger it. I'm going to go down a little ways to my left in that gully and just have a look, try and find a trail, try and find some sign. If I have no luck, 100 meters deep, I'll double back and I'll go down the other side. So I did that. And fortunately, I decided to take the left-hand side of the fork and, mate, I took 30 meters, walked down and then instantly found this really prominent-looking game trail. There was leaves clearly pushed out of the way, so it's been used frequently. We had a couple of wet weather days prior before we went up. It was quite windy, so if it hadn't been used, I thought at the time that you'd be able to tell that there'd be a fair bit of leaf litter over the top of these if I ever come across any game trails, so I'd know that they weren't too hot. But fortunately, they were very fresh. This one game trail I followed, and I walked another 100 down following this game trail. It started to get very thick and full of blackberry bush and started to get quite cold and the wind started stirring as I got deeper down. And I found this pinch point. I found this one spot. I got to this spot and there was 4 game trails all leading into this one main one in this one spot that I was at. And I went, this is clearly a point where out of these 4 game trails, it's all leading here. This is obviously a pinch point, a choke point. Well, that's how my mind thought or worked at the time. And I decided I'm pretty knackered. I'm gonna find a spot off this. So I backed out of it. I didn't want to scent it up too much, so I backed out of it and sort of did a broad circle around it. I'd say a good 50 to 100 meter radius of just walking around it trying to find some scrapes because it was pre-rut, so the scrapes were everywhere. There were a lot of them, rub trees everywhere. And where these 4 points all met, all around it was just covered in rub trees, and you could smell it on the tree. You could smell it, and it was a new experience. I hadn't smelt it before, and I went, I'm going to stop here. I could keep walking and I can keep going, and that took a lot of me too to just suck it up. So I looked up, went looking back up this gully, and just tried to look at a point where best block my outline. And there was this big old tree sitting there about 40 yards out from this pinch point. And I went, yep, that's the spot. I'll sit there, have a bite to eat, have a drink of water, and just rest for a while. And, mate, so I got up there, got to this tree, and all below it was just covered in bark and leaves and twigs and sticks and just everything you think of. Every slight movement I made, I was crunching. And it's amazing when you're out there, isn't it, Matty? Like you don't realise how loud things are unless you're somewhere where there's nothing.
I say it all the time. We are so noisy in the bush. It's not funny. Like,
Yeah.
it makes me just have so much more like respect for ancestors that did it without the stuff we do, without the camouflage, without the boots, without the, even the compound bow to shoot further out. Like,
100%.
This must have been unbelievably hard to hunt in that environment back then. And yeah, you just walk through, and I always find it doesn't matter how quiet you try to be, you still make noise.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It baffles me a lot sometimes as how people did it a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a really good way to look at that. It spun me out being out there, how well your ears just tune into everything. But then I think a lot of it's a mind game too, because we're so tuned to nature in the middle of nowhere where there is no vehicle noise, loud, there's nothing. It's just pure nature, bliss, heaven out there, really. I think it's just, I don't know, I could be way, way off topic, but I think the way I look at it is we become that accustomed and that in tune to listening, because without your ears out there, without my ears that day, this would never have come to fruition. And you get that tuned in to every bird, every creek, every crack, every stick falling from a tree. Or I think you get that focused on those sounds that as soon as you make a noise, you just think it's the most loudest thing ever. And you always kick yourself, just be quiet, you idiot, what are you doing? But realistically, that's just another stick falling from a tree and above. It's like, it's a good fight to have. I enjoy that part of it.
I'm with you. I do think we overthink a lot of things, and that when you are making noise, everything makes noise out there. And even though it sounds really loud where you are, because that's where you are, but 30 meters away, you might not hear it.
Yeah.
Depending which way the wind's going, how much wind there is, I get what you're saying.
Well, that's right. No, exactly right. And as I said at the start of this, I'm still very, very new to this, and I'm what I could say could be taken as a grain of salt. And 100%, I'm all ears. I want to learn. I want to know. I want to listen. And so no, definitely with the wind and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I can guarantee you 100% I can imagine your sound would carry a long, long way, because I heard this buck from a long way away, and it was just the slightest crack of something. So yeah, it was funny. So I was in that moment. I was at this tree, and everything below me was just loud and obnoxious, and I was like, I can't have this. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't deal with it. So fortunately enough, this tree had the bottom half of it. All the bark started peeling off this thing, and there was two beautiful pieces of bark right at eye level. So I just pulled them off the tree and stuck them under my feet, sort of put my feet on them and rubbed them in, sort of thing, and got them set. Then I was quiet as a whisper with any movement, so I could move and I could rotate and not make too much noise. And did that. And mate, I sat there for 40 minutes to an hour. Feels like forever at the time. Felt like I'd been there all day, and heard nothing, saw nothing, and just I started to get edgy. Should I move down there? Oh, that looks good down there. I should get up. I should go. No, I'm not going to do that. Had that argument of what should I do? Should I move on? Should I keep going? Decided to sit down, have a bite to eat, pull out the fox whistle, had a bit of a whistle, and that was pure ignorance when I look back now. Like, what are you doing? Why would you pull out a fox whistle? But it was just, I'm new to it. It was just like, oh yeah, nothing's happening. I'll see if we can get a fox to come in. And nothing happened there, mate. So by this time it would have been close to 10:30, and I decided to completely back out of there. I was like, nah, I'm going to back out of here. I'm going to go walk down that other split in the gully. I'm going to go down that side, and went down that side, went for a big walk this time, big hike, travelled down, didn't see much sign, didn't see much rubs, didn't see game trails, were far from in between. And I was like, no, I'll double back. I'll go over the top of this side of the fork, and I'll walk back up towards that pinch point that I'd sat off before earlier in the day. So I went down the other side, went double backed around, come back up, and learned a lot, saw a lot of things, found a really cool spot, a little bench that was covered in all these ferns, and right in the middle of it was this wallow. And that was a really cool experience. I got to see my first proper use, because all the mud was all turned up. It was all dirty and you could smell it, and there were fresh tracks through it. And that was really cool to experience. So I took some photos of that, had a bit of a rest there, and just really lived the moment, lived the experience, and looked at my clock, and it was about 12:40-ish, 12:45. I thought, oh, bugger it. I'm getting a bit hungry, getting a bit chipper, getting a bit edgy. Let's go back up. I'm starting to feel the tiredness of the hiking for the morning, and just the dedication and the focus that you put in as hunters. I have so much respect for everyone that does it now, being a part of it, because God, it takes it out of you. Just you're 110% focused on one goal. And so I decided to take a breather. So I went back to the tree and stood on me 2 bits of bark and pulled out the fox whistle again after another drink, and just I took me hunting jumper off and just my top layer off, just to air out a bit and cool down, because I was working up quite the sweat there, and just kicked back, man. And I sat there for, again, another 40 minutes to an hour and just relaxed. And then I'll never forget it, because I'm a smoker, and I reached down to have a cigarette, and that's when I heard something off to my left. So I was on the fork of this gully. So where this tree is that I was standing at with the 2 bits of bark was right on the edge of this fork in this gully. So I was on the top side of this fork looking down into that left-hand fork of this gully. And where that pinch point was 40 yards off where I was sitting, where I was standing. And within that circle of game trails where it all come together and met, and there was a rub tree right behind it. It was a very distinct, there was a very distinct tree there. It was like from a previous bushfire that might have gone through there years ago. I haven't done my research on that. I think I will, because I'd like to know what happened through there. But it was a half burnt tree, and then the top had recovered, so it had the green shoots coming out of the top half of it. And it was just a very distinct and unique tree. So as I sat there, cigarette in hand, I decided to range that tree, and that tree was dead on 40 yards. And then I ranged every single tree around it, whether some were at 25 yards, some were at 60 yards, somewhere, just trying to circulate, pinpoint, have a good gauge of my distance around me to that one spot. I don't know why I was so fixated on that spot going back. It's something I've always questioned myself about, is I don't know why that spot spoke to me, but it just did. So I ranged everything. So I had my distances. I was confident. And then, yeah, same thing, mate. I ranged all that, got all that done, put the cigarette out, focused on the hunting task, focused on my task, pulled out the fox whistle again, man. I literally don't know. I still don't know why I pulled the fox whistle out that day, but I did. And here I am whistling away the old Tenterfield fox whistle. And as I was doing that, it was probably 5 minutes worth of a couple of bleats here and there. And all I heard something to my left, up on the upside of the other side of this small fork I was in. I heard a crack. I heard what turned out to be a footstep, and to my left of this tree that I was standing at, there was another gum tree. Just it would have been 10 yards, 8 meters, something to my left, and that tree blocked my view of where this sound was coming from. And it took every ounce of me. I didn't peek. I didn't lean out at this time to try and see what this noise was. And thank God I didn't. But then I heard it again, and I could really start to hear it. It was getting closer, and I'm starting to shake at this point. I don't even know what this thing is yet. Could have been a fox. Who knows? He could have been running down that side and coming into the whistle. But it all started because I could hear it, and then I built the courage to, okay, I've got to see this thing. I've got to pop out. I have to look out here. So I leant out, and all I saw was his coat, the spots on the back of his coat, walking down this hill, and the sun was just up to our right hand side, because it was about 1:45 in the afternoon at this time by the time all this unfolded. And so the sun was right up, directly up top, a bit more to the right hand side of that where we were at the time, in the west hand side of where we were. And the sun was just, I don't know why it's such a big moment, but the glistening of the sun, that's time, just the position, everything, that the sun on his coat's what got me. That's one vivid part of it that I'll never forget, was seeing that. And then, mate, then the legs were going, then the heart was going, everything was going, and I'm just having that fight, trying to keep it all together. And I watched him, he's walking down, and he started to veer off. He started to go back up towards the top of the gully where I began. Started to walk down. He started heading back up, and I'm having that argument like, oh, God damn it. But who cares? This is unreal. He's close. This is phenomenal. But come on, turn around. Surely you're going to that pot. You're going to that spot. You're going to that spot. And I kept telling myself, you're going to that spot. And he did. He turned. And as he turned to go back down towards this distinct tree that I ranged earlier in the day, by that time I didn't know it was a buck. I had no idea. I just saw the back of the coat with the spots, and as soon as he turned and I saw his front right paddle come around, that's when I lost it. I was gone. I don't know how to explain it. It was a moment that I remember vividly, but I can never remember enough to explain what I was going through at the time. It was just a, oh my God moment. This is happening sort of, wow, it's a buck. Not that I was out there for that. I just wanted to experience the rush and the thrill of what it is, and the appreciate, all of the above. But so he's quartering 2 now, and he's coming back down towards this tree because I'm on the opposite side. So he's coming down, and I'm just watching. At this point, I can hear him breathing. I can hear him snorting, and he's just slowly pacing. And down by this distinct tree, it was all covered in blackberry. It was all just covered in it, and he stopped right at that distinct tree that I'd ranged. He stopped right behind it, head behind it, and he decided to stop there for some unbeknown reason. He stopped, and I just kept watching, and then that moment hit me where it's like, what are you doing? You need to draw back. Like, this is your moment. This is your time. This is your shot. This is happening. And as soon as he crossed that tree, like, for some reason, it might have been 10 seconds. But to me in that moment, it felt like hours that he was stopped behind that tree. And I built the courage. I clicked my release on. I didn't even have my release clicked on. It was just, I forgot, all that was gone. I'd forgotten all about it. I was just too lost in this creature, this animal. But for some reason, it just went, oh, no, you got to, I woke up is the best way to put it, mate. I clicked on, drew back. At the time, I was shooting 63 pound. It was a 350 spine arrow, weighed in a total of 420 grains. And I'm only a little bloke, so I got a short draw length. I was 27.5 inch and shoot mechanical. So I knew in this moment, as I drew back, I did, and I'm not going to lie, I did have that slight, I don't know if I like this. I did have that feeling, just because bow speed with mechanical broadheads is a very important thing for a lot of people. And it is to me from all my years and who I am, as I said earlier in the pod, is as soon as I have doubt or I'm not confident within myself or my gear, I will not do it. But I had that argument, so I drew down. I did. I backed down and just had that argument for what would have been a second or two. And I went, no, you're good at this. You can do this. You can put it where it needs to go. So I drew back. He stepped out, looked up. It looked like he was just looking straight through me, but he had no idea I was there. But in the moment, it was like, oh no, he's on me. He's got me. He knows I'm here. I'm not releasing this arrow. So he was frontal. So he was front on at this stage, directly looking at me past this tree, slightly quartering away. So the shot has now turned from a paper plate at 40 yards to a softball to try and hit front on in between the two shoulder blades at the front. And I settled my pin, mate, and he took one more step, turned his head away, and I was like, oh, he doesn't know I'm here. I'm taking this shot. And I told myself 3 times, aim small, miss small, aim small, miss small. Settled my 40 pin and let it go. Mate, time slows with an arrow, especially, I don't know, something just magical about the flight. And it felt like I watched it in milliseconds, like slow. I felt like I'd watched it that slow that it was a very special moment. And I watched it sail, and I watched the back of that arrow. I watched the fletchings disappear exactly where my pin was set. And I heard the hit and instantly knew that I'd done it. I didn't have a second doubt that I'd missed or there was potential for a second arrow or a follow-up shot or anything like that. And he took off. He was quartering on towards me when I took the shot, facing up towards where I was, and he continued in that westerly distance towards the sun. That's one thing I vividly remember. He made it from where I hit him, he went 40 yards, and then where he dropped would have been 20 yards from where I stood. Seeing him drop, I did knock another arrow. I did draw back. I had a clear sight of him bedded, and I knew I could hit the vitals, so I did. I took a second shot, and I think if going back now, I think that's purely for being inexperienced. But then again, I don't think it was the wrong thing. I think it was the right thing to do. So I took a second shot, put one right where I wanted it to, and that was it, mate. I was gone. I was a baby that just got his finger stuck in the door, mate. I was gone. The tears, the emotion, just everything, it happened. It's done. What has just happened? Where we were, there's no cell signal, so I couldn't reach out to anyone, and I just sat there. I sat on those two bits of bark that I'd stood on and cried, excitement, threw the bow in the air, did the whole kiss the limbs, hugged myself, mate. I guess best way to put it was pat myself on the back and took a small video, and because I wanted to capture and relive that moment forever, and I wanted to show my son and show the people I care about if they were interested in seeing that footage, and just to play for myself, to go all these years of hard work. And I gave up and went through all of it, went through the ringers, and for this one bloke to reach out and re-spark this passion, and then to go out and show me for a day, and then to go out on my own and make it happen on my own was incredible, man. And here's where the story gets interesting, mate. I had listened to so many stories and podcasts and videos, and I backed out of there, mate. I heard there's a distinct sound they make, as you would know, that they've expired. I knew, but I decided to back out of there anyway. I didn't run and go and visit and see him. I was like, I don't know what was going on, mate. I don't know. I just went, nope, I don't want to bump him in case, mate. Even though I knew that I'd done what I needed to do and I was confident, but I backed out of there.
Even after the second arrow?
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Yep. All the boys to this day that's going to live with me forever, they all laugh and think it's hilarious, but I backed out of there, mate. I reckon I sat there for 25 minutes wanting to go, but just, I don't know what it was, just the constant stories of hearing, of bumping them and pushing them, and I went, nah, I'm backing out. And remember, I've never butchered a deer. I didn't know what I wanted to cape it. I wanted to relive his memory. I wanted to remember a bit of a remembrance. I wanted to keep that. I wanted to take everything I could, but I wouldn't know the first thing to do. At the time, I felt like I was wasting time. I was like, nah, I'm on the clock now. It's warm. It was it's 20th of March. It was warm. I was like, nah, I've got to get to camp. I've got to back out. I don't want to bump him. I don't want to push him. So I backed out, mate. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done, was especially with all that hype and all that time and effort and money and blood, sweat and tears. And that moment happened. And mate, I've never ran so fast up a hill in my life. I got out of there and I got to the top with the main track back to camp. And that from where I was about 1 kilometre. And up the gully, I got up to the top and I thought I was dying. I was like, nah, I need to sit. I can't move anymore. But the excitement was just, the adrenaline was just, that's what kept me going. But I couldn't do it. So I stopped and I leant on this tree right at this tray on this track that leads back to camp. And there's 3 other tracks that go into this one main one back to camp. And I just sat on this tree trying to recover, trying to relive it, even though it happened some 25, 30 minutes ago. And as I was sitting there catching my breath and going through the motions, I put my bow on the ground and I heard this 4-wheel drive just absolutely gunning up this track to my left. And I went, oh, here we go. And they're gunning up this hill and they've got Luke Combs pumping. They got the tunes going. They get up the top and they're out there. They get out and they're parading. Going, we did it. That was awesome. Rah rah, having the time of their lives. These boys out in the bush 4-wheel driving, and they look up and saw me and they're like, "Oh, mate, are you all right?" I went, "Nah, nah, I'm not. Mate, I've done it." And they looked at me. They took one look. They saw the bow and they saw the binos, and they went, "Oh, you just shot your first deer, haven't you?" I went, "Yep." And then I started bursting into tears again in front of these two strangers, and they said, "Mate, where you camped?" I said, "I'm camped up the top track." And they went, jump in. And they put me in the front of the bench seat Hilux. It was an old Hilux, and that was it, mate. These two random strangers, they were two Geelong boys. They were brothers, and they just, mate, I got in, bow's in. I'm hanging the bow out the window of this Lux, and we're cruising up this track, and the younger brother's got his arm around me going, "Mate, well done. That is the best news. It's so good to hear. Tell me what happened. And I looked at him and said, "Mate, I don't even know what happened. Just give me a minute. Thanks for the lift," sort of thing. And I get back to camp and we're cruising up because it's quite a steep little track up into this camp spot. And so these two boys, they're up it. And Anthony was back at camp because he doesn't hunt during the days. So he was back doing his rest, and he got up. So he's getting all defensive because there's 3 blokes just pull up screaming up this hill in the camp in a Hilux that we don't know. And I get out and he's just looking at me pale as a ghost. And these 2 blokes get out and they've picked me up and they've gone, he's done it. He's just shot a deer. And I ran over to Anthony and said, "Mate, I've done it." I was shaking, crying, all the works. And he couldn't believe it. He's been bow hunting for deer for years and he still hasn't taken one with a bow. And he taught me everything he knew and helped me and put me in this spot, and I managed to do it. And that's it, mate. That's when the mates, the hugs, the thing that 2 Aussie blokes do when they have a hug and then they push each other off and put their fists up and say, "I'll get out of it." That was all happening. And yeah, mate, just the thrill of that moment. And he goes, "Well, have you got any photos? Where is he?" I just looked at him. I said, "Oh, I backed out of there." And that was it. He just started laughing. Just went, "You're joking. You got out of there. You didn't even." I went, "Nah." He goes, "Oh." So he was in tears laughing at me. And he goes, "You remember where it is though, don't you?" I went, "Of course I do, mate." And he goes, "All right, I'll ring me brother. I'll ring me uncle. I'll get him up here." So he gave him a call because at camp we had a bit of reception, and he rang them. 5 minutes later, they come up and then they're out of the car, and because they're all rifle hunters, none of them hunt with bows, and they were giving us the typical, "Oh, mate, you're bow hunters, good luck," sort of on, that good luck, see if you can pull it off sort of deal. And when they got to camp and they said, "No way you've done it," sort of deal, and they couldn't believe it, what just happened. And the brother, it was the first time I met Anthony's brother. I met his uncle before, and his brother that I hadn't even met yet ran over and just wrapped me and just threw me around and just said, "Mate, well done. This is an unbelievable story and I can't wait to tell everyone. And that's me if you'll let me." And he goes, "Mate, we got to go get this deer." I went, "Yeah." And they did the usual, how big is it? What happened? What's the story? And I tried my best at the time. I was a blabbering mess. I don't think I got a clear word out, and they just sort of looked, nodded and went, "Yeah, nah, he's lost in the first deer moment. Yeah, nah, he's no good to us." They just said, "Jump in the back of the ute, mate, and we'll drive down there." And unfortunately, Anthony, the mate who got me into it and took me up and built my passion, unfortunately, his partner and his father were driving up to camp at the same time but didn't have the coordinates. So he unfortunately couldn't experience that first moment of me meeting the deer for the first time and caping it and teaching me all that. He couldn't be a part of it, so he had to stay at camp. And the uncle and the brother drove me down, mate. We walked down in this gully and I was doing the usual, like fishermen do, mate. It's this big and you got your hands out, as wide as you possibly can, but it's really half that. It was one of those stories. And just the trip, the sitting in the back of that Hilux on the way back down with the bow on me knee and going over the upsy daisies, trying to hold on for dear life, not getting thrown out of this thing. And that feeling of going down to get him and just going, "Hold, this happened." And it feels like a part of me as a male or a human being, I should say, had been missing. It felt like a hole has been filled, or it's a part of me that was finally answered. And from that moment, I knew that it's just something that's getting lost, and I found it. And my God, will I do this until the day I physically can't walk out in these gullies anymore. And we got down there, mate, and I was too excited. They're asking me questions. I'm charging down this hill to go and meet him for the first time, and I went 70 yards further. I went too far, and I stopped and went, "Oh, you're not gone too far. He's back this way." And we found him, and that was it. As soon as I locked eyes, it was that was a moment that you always hear in stories, and you always see, and you witness, and you watch, and you can never understand that feeling unless you do it. You're physically in that moment. And I got there and put my hands on him and held his head up, and it's always been a conflicting thing through my research over the years, wanting to do it, is why do they pat these animals, and that's all I could do. It's just pure appreciation and love. And mate, I sat there for half an hour, I think, before any word was said or anything was anything begun. It was just mate, an unreal moment that I'll carry for the rest of my life. And we got some photos and some memories, and the boys taught me how to cape. They taught me how to butcher. So we took the back strap, the loins, the back legs, the front legs, took the heart, tried to utilize every single piece I could, because I've eaten venison in the past, and not fresh, not free range venison, just purchased through, unfortunately, the local supermarket, because I didn't have people or friends or mates or family that do it. So that was the only way I can get a hold of it, and got to experience the whole thing. The boys didn't offer any help. I had to carry that out all myself, and they taught me every aspect, every motion, every cut, everything I needed. Forced me to carry it out, and I, to this day, am so grateful they did. They made it a full moment and pretended or tried their best to make out that they weren't there. It was a very good moment, mate. And that was day 2 at 1:50 p.m. on the 20th of March. I took my first buck with a bow, and because of the twin bark that I pulled off the tree, we call him the twin bark buck, and that's the name I've given him. We got back to camp, mate, and celebrated. The beers come flowing, the fire was going, the afternoon hunt didn't happen. It was just a very surreal, and the hours and hours of talk and conversation, and it amazed me. They just wanted to keep hearing the story and just understand the passion. And I think the one thing the old boy said to me, Anthony's uncle, was, and he is now going months on, he's a big part of my life now, and he, the one thing I'll never forget him saying was, I find more enjoyment in seeing someone new or someone starting their journey live this moment than I do myself. And I'm so proud I could be here and help you and assist you through it. And that one little moment with him and that convo by the fire, that was the way that night ended. And it was a very humble conversation and a humble night. It got a bit messy, as it did. And the phone calls and the loved ones I was ringing, and the tears, the laughter, the joy, the eagerness, mate. And that was the story. I'm sure there's a lot I've left out, because there's what it's like in those moments. You just get lost, and you try and relive every single moment, and you always will in that mind of yours. But when you try and relay it as best you can, it's a hard one. But mate, that's the story of my first buck with a bow.
Mate, no, unreal. Well done. It's awesome to hear about it, and I think you did a great job of retelling it. Like, I haven't even got that many questions for you, because you covered so much. I was just sitting here the whole time going, how cool is this? You can hear in your voice how much this has meant to you, and the fact that, you're willing to jump on the podcast and tell, so it'll be up there for others to hear, and yourself and whatnot for all time. That's such a cool thing. And I'm so glad you decided to jump on with us. And I know it's been a long time coming, because we spoke about this probably in April.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're now in August. So it has been a long time coming, but mate, I really appreciate it. And what a cool story. Like, yeah, unbelievable.
I can't thank you enough for allowing me to jump on and tell the story. It's the one thing us bow hunters always, especially now going on and having a bit more experience and doing it all, is there's never enough encouragement. There never seems to be enough help or advice or guidance or just talks in general about it. And if me telling my story can help anyone, as I said, guys, I'm I'm still very green and very new to this as a bow hunter, as a hunter, I should say. And you can make it happen if you push hard enough. And with the help of what you, Maddie, what you guys, what you give in your content on this pod and what others do. And there's so much to learn, so much to study. And if you're passionate about it, it's going to happen. Just keep hammering, keep doing it. You got it. You'll get there. And that's the biggest thing. This lesson I learned out of all this is encouragement, and don't be afraid to speak out to people. Because if I didn't, this would never have happened, and I probably still wouldn't shoot archery. It was thanks to reaching out to someone and being open about it, and meeting a fellow hunter and them openly sharing their knowledge and wisdom that made all this happen. And yes, I thank myself a lot, obviously, but you're only a small part of a big journey, and as hunters, we all need to get together, and we're all a part of this together. Whether you're a bow hunter, rifle hunter, whatever you are, it's mate, we all love and live and breathe the same thing, and get outdoors. It's an experience, and if you're ever on the fence and you're out there, just do it. Go, take the leap, because mate, now that happened, and that story and my story unfolded back in March, and I'm fortunate enough it's happened again since, and I can't wait to get out again. Every day I need to get out there. The story, Matty, I know we're pretty deep now into this, but the story keeps going. But if anyone's interested, I'm happy to talk more. But that was that night, mate, and there was 2 more days after it. Real quickly, I got 2 shots off on 2 deer on both days, the 2 days after. I did gruel and grind after a long night of celebration. I did get up at the crack of dawn and do it all again the next day. And then the trip the next morning to the taxidermist, fortunately, we were very close to Alpine Artistry in Mansfield, Victoria. And the GPS, because I was new to the area, mate, it took me down a different track than the way I came in. And let's just say, thank God I had 4-wheel drive and big muddies on my car, mate, because we would not have made it. I was holding onto his antlers next to me in that car the whole way down this track and this gully, trying to get to the abattoirs. What am I talking about? Trying to get to the taxidermist in time, because it was a Sunday morning, and she, the lovely lady, said she would meet me there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I've taken a wrong turn, gone down this 4-wheel drive only track, and my God, was it hairy. But I was gripping onto him in the end, mate, praying we'd make it through this through this track, and we got there in the end, mate. But and then all smiles and happy times and memories on the way home.
Mate, I love it. It's a cool story. It's look, as you said, I think it's a great message that just keep plugging away. And I don't think, for me, I'm similar. I'm not a super experienced hunter by any stretch of the imagination, but just learning every time and plugging away, and it just makes that journey so more. For me, it's just been such a memorable journey already, and I can't wait. And I can sense it in you that just you want to get back out there, and you're counting down the days until you do again. And I think it's hard to explain to people that have never done it, and they just don't get that sensation or that feeling or that understanding of it. So no, correct. Yeah, 100%. It's and they need to. And I'm not talking hunting. I'm counting down the days just to get out and be out in nature, be out in the bush. Yeah.
It's always. Having a bow and having a motive to be out there obviously is a bigger thing. But even if you're not interested in the hunting side of things, you just get out there, go for a walk along a creek, get lost, have a GPS obviously, but get out there and live it, see it, feel it, breathe it, and just forget the world for a day, a couple of hours if that's all you've got. But it's the one thing I love to say to people is we are so rich individually as general members of the public in Australia. We have millions and millions of access to Crown land. So we are all internally rich. We're all internally wealthy because we all have that access. We have that. Anyone can do it. And I just feel that there's millions of acres as we've got. There's millions of people that take it for granted. And if you just take that leap, just get out there, get in your car, just go and experience it. You own it. We all do. So get out there, get outdoors, enjoy it. I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up. I couldn't agree more. Get out there, go exploring, and have some fun. Just get amongst nature. It's definitely well worth it. So indeed. All right, Ash, mate.
been a pleasure having you on. So happy for you, mate. And I'm glad we've done this. And I hope I know everybody will enjoy the story. And, big congrats again, mate.
No, thanks, Matty. I can't thank you enough. Thanks for having me on. And I hope you guys out there listening got something out of it or, enjoyed the story. Yeah, Matty, thanks. Really appreciate it.
No, mate, not a problem. I love getting people on and just hearing the passion and all that. It inspires me to get out there even more. So, which I didn't think was possible, but it most definitely is. So.
No, definitely, mate. Well, hopefully one day we catch up out there chasing these critters.
Sounds good. I'll have to get down there to Vic. I know that, and get out and use that public land. So
definitely.
All right, mate. Well, thank you again for coming on, and listeners, hope you enjoyed it. And bye for now. If you have a topic, guest, question, or any gear that you want to hear about on the podcast, shoot us an email, australianhuntingandbeyond@gmail.com. Alternatively, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All the links are in the show notes. If you haven't already, make sure you give us a review and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.